Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are never, ever alone. Now, here on Invisible Condition, we get it. Okay, life can be tough sometimes, right? Life can be hard. Some days are better than others. We also know that there is always hope. So, I have a question for you. How is your hope? Has your hope stuck around? Or do you still have your hope or is it left? If you feel like, what the heck are you talking about, Jeff? It's a pretty hopeless day. Shoot me an email. Just put hope in the subject line. I want to talk to you. There's no reason for anybody to not have hope. Hope is a big deal. So, so I want to talk to you. Seriously. That's how I roll. I like talking to people and I like helping people find their hope. So shoot me an email if that's the case for you, and let's have a conversation. So, all right, I want to talk to you real quick before a couple things before we bring our guest on, and then we are going to hit the ground running here. I want to point out our nonprofit organization for the show is called Hydro with Hope, and that is an organization that helps people with a condition that I was born with called hydrocephalus, which is a really crazy, really common condition, but really crazy condition that affects hundreds of thousands of babies born every single year with it. And so my wife and I published a journal, a fill-in-the-blank journal that can walk you through that whole experience of, oh my Lord, we have to have brain surgery again? Holy crap, what are we going to do? And kind of walks you through all that. And my wife and I are also international speakers. We love going around the country and around the world to just spread hope, man. Tell stories, spread hope. Make sure people know that brain surgery is not the end. It's just the beginning. And all of that takes money, right? All of that costs money. That is why this right here is a donation link. So if you feel led, we appreciate it. Thank you. You can donate monthly on a recurring basis. You can do it once. We love you either way. It's awesome. Please help us get these journals into the hands of people that need them, and help us to be able to spread this message far and wide. Thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to point out is our studio sponsor, which is Network Referral Group, or NRG for short. And it might sound like energy when you say it real fast. That's intentional. This group is amazing. It's electric, which is why I have it looking like I do on the intro, right? With the lightning and all that stuff. So the guy that runs it, his name is Mike, and he's in Baltimore, and he has been networking for like 26 years or some crazy thing. And he knows how to do it. This is the most streamlined, most efficient way I've ever seen for networking. It is the purest form of networking I've ever seen. You show up to these calls, and by the way, there's 30 calls a week that you can show up to if you like to network. It's a gold mine. You show up, you tell people who you are and what you do, and you get referrals, and you go home and build your business. That's it. It has literally ruined me for all of the networking groups. I get done what I need to get done at this group, which is why I'm a lifetime member. So if you would like more information or want to come check it out for yourself and see how you could also have never-ending referrals, scan the QR code, and Mike will, and tell him I sent you, and you'll say, oh, that guy on the TV show again. Jeff's sharing spreading the word again. Heck yeah, because it's the best networking group I've ever seen. So jump on that QR code and let Mike know that you would like to come check it out. You will love it. All right. Now, our guest today is amazing. In January of 2024, Jennifer White went into brain surgery. I can relate. Brain surgery, man, and woke up in a world she had to rebuild from scratch. That I can't relate to. This is going to be an interesting story. As a retired registered nurse, she knew exactly what her body had been through. She knew she'd seen it before, right? But what she couldn't have anticipated was the journey ahead, relearning how to walk, how to think, how to speak, and ultimately to find out who the heck she was on the other side of all this, right? Because like all memory was gone. today she is using that experience to do something absolutely amazing, and we're going to talk about it today. Let's bring her on the show and see where this goes from here. Jenny, thank you so much for being here, man. This is going to be fun.
Hi, Jeff. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. This is awesome. So I have a question I like to ask everybody to kick the episode off. It's a great question. It's a very simple question. Um, and you'll relate on I can't believe how much we relate to each other, man. This brain surgery thing. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
we're part of a very elite number of people that have survived brain surgery, but like it's an awesome group to be a part of. On those days that are tough, man, and I know there's some, on those rough days, how do you still maintain hope?
Well, I'm a very spiritual person. So when I'm having those days, two things happen. One, I share that I'm grateful that I'm alive and I ask for guidance. And secondly, I just give myself permission to have a bad day because I know it's temporary and I know it's going to get better. And sometimes you just have to have those bad days to keep going.
Love it. It's true. Actually, I had a guest on the show a few months ago, and it was the dad was on the show on the behalf of his daughter who was like 7 or 8, and she was I think she was autistic, and 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 they had kind of one of those days, right? They were at like ballet or something, and something happened in the lobby of the building they were in for ballet class, and some loud noise or something broke or shattered on the floor. And he just was so apologetic to her, said, "Man, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I know that makes for a really rough day today. I know that's been a rough day." She goes, "Daddy, it's not a rough day. That was just a few minutes, man. The rest of the day can be fine." It's like,
Good
God,
point.
seriously, the wisdom out of that kid, man. I was like, come
Yeah,
on. It's true, though. It's true.
it is.
I love it. I love that. So, oh, by the way, let me throw this out while we're talking here. Actually, I'm going to do this one because it's bigger. There we go. Now we can see. Thank you for being here, everybody. If you are watching on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and you hear something that Jenny or I say, and you go, "Yeah, right on," or "Wait a second, that's not what I've heard," or you want to, anything, any comment you want to make, throw it in the chat, and we'll and we can interact with you and get back to you and all the things. So if you have questions, and then this is Jenny's website. And real quick before we uh, get started, what is this website? What is everybody going to see there? What's the got there?
Well, the website actually profiles my books. I started writing medical thrillers that I'm sure we'll talk about, but um, the first one is available for sale now, and Terror at the Manor is coming out later this year. So it just kind of takes you through a little bit of my story and what I've been up to.
Love it. Awesome. So everybody go visit the website so you can. So as we're talking about these books, they're actually behind you, by the way. Uh, they're
Yes.
right behind her. So so if you like what they sound like or what they look like, then jump on the website and check it out. So let's take us back to that, like back in time a little bit when you woke up from surgery, and what was the first thing you were aware of, like, and what did you realize that you could like no longer do anymore?
Okay, well, fun times.
Bring it
So it
on.
was back in January of 2024, and I actually woke up after I'd had a coma for a couple of days. I didn't, of course, know about it, but found out afterwards. So when I woke up, the very first thing that I recall is being tied to the bed, which,
Oh.
is usually not a good sign. So
Mm-mm.
being tied to the bed, my wrists kind of in soft restraints, but to the side rails. The nurse brain inside of me knew that something was very wrong. And they, of course, everybody kind of descended on me immediately as soon as I woke up because they've been waiting for it for a few days. And one of the nurses said to me, she said, please don't panic. Here's why. And she explained that as I was coming out of my coma, I became quite combative
Oh,
and was just trying to remove all the equipment on me. And I tore my dressing off my head and all of those things that you
hmm.
really shouldn't do. So
No,
they had to
no.
keep me safe. So that was the very first thing. The second thing that I realized was that there was a man at the end of my bed in street clothes. And I remember looking at him thinking, gee, I wonder who that is. Well, it turned out that was my husband of 20 years, and I just didn't recognize him at all.
Mm,
Um, the next thing that came along was I thought I was speaking. I apparently was just making noise. So words were not being formed or coming out properly.
oh no.
And the nurse again sort of said to me, okay, don't panic. We can't understand you. You know, your speech isn't working.
Whoa.
It will get better. And then the last thing that sort of happened at that same time was now that I was awake, they of course did all their tests on me again, but then they needed to get me up moving because after surgery, as you know, you can form blood clots
Oh
and
yeah.
have infections and all kinds of things can happen. And so they needed to get me up moving.
Mhm.
And I remember being sort of positioned on the side of the bed, and I kept falling over because my balance was off.
Yeah.
And I had a nurse on either side of me and a walker in front of me.
Hmm.
And they literally, like, they told me to sit up and stand up. And I remember thinking, okay, yeah, I probably should know how to do that, but nothing was happening.
Oh,
So they literally propped me up and dragged me. So I couldn't walk, I couldn't get my balance, couldn't talk, didn't recognize things.
oh,
And then I started to realize I don't really remember what happened or who I am or what my name is or anything like that. So it was kind of one thing after another. And probably within a half an hour, I was realizing I've got a serious problem here.
good Lord. That is a big problem. Wait, but I have a question
That
for you
is a
about something
problem.
yeah, yeah. Well, I have a question for you about something you said before. You said
Yeah,
something about you were looking right at the nurses and what you thought you were doing was communicating with them verbally. I'm telling you things. Why are you not understanding me? And but what was coming out of
right.
your mouth was like unintelligible, right? Just so,
Yes,
but in your head,
yes.
you were having a conversation. Like you were,
Yeah,
according to you, you were having an intelligent conversation. You were forming the
yeah,
words in your mind. They just weren't coming out.
correct.
Oh God, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that would be so infuriating. I would think. That would be so tough. Oh, what do
Well,
you
it was
think when that
shocking.
happens? Like what goes through your mind when you find out nobody can understand you?
Well, and that's the thing, it's shocking. I
Yeah,
mean, I knew as a nurse when I went into brain surgery exactly what they were going to do to me, what the risks were. And in fact, I totally thought I might not make it through the surgery because, as you know, with brain surgery, location is everything. And my tumor that they had to remove was in a particularly bad spot. It was like at the base of my brain and it was wrapped around an artery that it was cutting off. And so it was going to kill me. So they had to um, they had to go digging a little bit. And so I had like a full craniotomy lot, and have the scars to prove it. But I think what's so shocking is even though you perceive that there might be problems, when it actually is happening to you, you're thinking, "Oh, no, now what do I do?" And so
right.
you're kind of in shock and you're kind of thinking, what's next? What's next? What else haven't I figured out?"
Yeah. I mean, that would be enough to make anybody worry, like just not having. I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, I've been through I've been through 7 brain surgeries so far in my 49 years on this planet, and I have
Wow.
and I have never
Yeah.
once I've never once come out of one of those surgeries and not known who I was or who the people around me were or anything like that. It's been, I've been told by the surgeons, by the nurses, by the, everybody around me in these situations, like, look, it's a traumatic brain injury. Every time you go under for brain surgery, every time we go poking around in there, it could result in different things, side effects and stuff. I,
Well,
I
there's a saying.
yeah,
There's a saying, "Air to the brain, you're never the same." And that's
right.
because your brain actually changes. And when they start moving pieces around and trying to manipulate tissue, not only do they accidentally and without meaning to cause trauma to that tissue,
A hundred
but
percent.
yeah, the inflammation and the damage that is caused is profound sometimes. And so
Yeah.
they actually didn't expect me to be in a coma. So that was shocking for them as well. They were quite
Yeah.
concerned. And then when they started realizing, okay, yeah, she's got some deficits, we need to get going and get her back up and going again. The team really kicked into gear.
Yeah, I bet. Well, and part of that is, like you said, one on one side, one on the other, right? Because you're probably in that bright yellow, like fall risk, gown or whatever. I
Yeah,
remember that distinctly. That like like school bus yellow, right? Like, and you're in this, you're going, what is this? And you can't even get out of the bed on your own because there's literally an
no,
alarm on your bed, and if that
yeah,
goes off, it's like the SWAT team comes in and
absolutely.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I
Well,
have never.
yeah,
It's so crazy.
I was in an ICU
Yeah.
environment, so there were lots of people around,
Uh huh.
and as soon as they realized I was awake, they were on me like flies.
Right. Yeah.
Just, "She's awake!"
Never mind the mental trauma you've just been through, and they're going to just overwhelm your brain by just like, whoa, she's
Yeah,
awake. Let's all talk to her at once.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, well, so okay. So what's next? So you're in the hospital. You're in ICU. You don't have a clue who anybody
yeah,
is. You know who your husband of
yeah.
20 years is. How did this go? Like, did you have to get any of that back before they sent you home, or were you just kind of on your own when you got home and you was like, well, let's learn stuff again? Like,
Well, they started immediately with physiotherapy to get me up walking again, and they
okay.
also got speech therapy involved right away. But one of the things that they did before I was allowed to go home was they had to do a swallowing assessment. And I
Ooh,
didn't even think about it at the time, but it makes perfect sense, right? Like you
ooh.
can't go home if you can't eat. So I
Right.
remember this was an interesting process actually. I remember them coming into my room. By this time I had been transferred to a two-bedroom and I was just sort of lying there awake. And they came in, two people came in with a trolley that had, different things on it.
Hmm.
And they started first with an ice cube. And I remember them saying, like, we're going to sit you up. We're going to try these things. We need to make sure you can swallow, okay? So they started with an ice cube. And I remember they put a piece of ice onto a spoon and they handed me the spoon. Well, I guess my eye-hand coordination was way off as well because, you're reaching out to get the
Yeah.
spoon, but like you're nowhere near the spoon.
Oh no.
And so they pop the ice cube into your mouth and they say, "Okay, now just let it melt and
Yeah.
swallow when you feel you need to swallow." So I
Sure.
remember kind of choking on it and sputtering and kind of coughing it up.
Oh
And
no.
they're going, "Oh, good, good, you're doing great." And I'm thinking, "No, no, I'm not."
No.
And so we did that for a few minutes until, I could feel the ice cubes actually being swallowed and going down into my stomach. And I could actually feel it going all the way down. It was like I was hypersensitive on the inside, whereas on the outside, I was just a bumbling mess. So they started with the ice cube, then it was a sip of water,
Uh-huh.
Then it was a little bit of applesauce, different texture, different muscles had to be used, so they
Mhm.
tried that. Then I'm trying to think, there was a couple of other things that they tried.
Maybe
I think one
Jello
was
or
mashed
something, a little more
potatoes,
solid or
Jello,
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
different things that even if I aspirated a little bit, it wasn't gonna cause a huge problem, but they needed to make sure that I could swallow. So
right.
I successfully swallowed, but I tell you, I really had to think about every single thing I was doing. It was a bit of a wake-up call, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, and what I distinctly remember from those visits is not just going in this end, but you got to be able to like your whole system has to work, right? Like your
Yes,
digestion has to
yes,
work, and you have to be able to do that too, you know. And so
yes,
that was
yes,
so everything's got to be work because anesthesia puts everything to sleep, you know. Not
it
not to
does,
mention
yeah,
brain injuries, right? So yeah,
yeah,
man, there's a lot that goes into it that a lot of people don't even think about. I I've
yeah.
never that's that's eye-opening to me. I've never never really thought about swallowing. You don't think about
Well,
it.
and yeah, the next time you eat, just stop yourself and actually, take a bite of something and then go, okay, now what do I do? And actually
Right.
have to think through, okay, I should chew this, or I should move my tongue, or I
Yeah.
should move my jaw. So just things that we take for granted all the time
Yeah.
become monumental things. It's just amazing.
Well, balance too, right? You said your balance was way off.
Yeah,
I totally
it
get that.
was.
I mean, that
Yeah.
is yeah, when the world goes from here to here, right? You're like, "Whoa," you know? And yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever had vertigo, that's what it was
Mm,
like. It was just
wow.
like this overwhelming feeling like you were turned upside down and sideways at the same time. It was very strange.
It's like you're on a roller coaster, but you're not moving, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
room is.
Wow. Yeah, the room is moved, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
good lord. Holy cow. So okay, so you obviously you got through all of that. You were able to,
Yes.
get everything done to their satisfaction that you needed to get done.
Yeah.
So now you go home, but then who do you go home with? Who's this guy?
Yes.
Right? You're
Yeah,
gonna go
well,
home with this stranger
exactly.
or
Exactly. I played along like he knew I was his husband, but I really didn't know for sure who he was. But I knew that I had hurt him. I could tell by his expression when, it became clear that I didn't know who he was, that he was just heartbroken over that. And so I
Mm,
kind of
yeah.
I kind of played a little bit to try and make it okay for both of us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. God, think about that. Think about that, everybody. I mean, seriously, people out there, I know there's tens of thousands of you out there that are married right now and think about that. I've been married, I coming up in June will be 27 years I've been married to my wife and we've known each other since we were 13 years old. I can't imagine looking at her and going, "Who are you? I don't get it." Or like her looking at
Well,
me and do it like that would be so hard.
and
So
that's
hard,
the thing, he's got 30 years of memories because
right?
we've been married for 20, but we'd been together for 10 before that. So he had
Yeah.
all those memories, and I'm
Mm.
like blank, just blank.
Oh,
Now I did notice that I recognized a smell, and he smelled like something that I was familiar with, but
okay.
visually, nothing. Yeah,
So was it the kind of because I know the memory can be such a fickle, weird thing, right? Like there's the short-term memory
yeah,
and the long-term memory, and and so for me with the brain surgeries that I've had, the short-term memory gets harmed more than the long-term memory. Like you ask me what my the layout of my childhood home is, I could walk you through it in painstaking detail, tell you my childhood phone number, like all the things from way back. But ask me
yeah.
about something a month ago, and I'm probably not gonna be able to tell you much, right? Was it
Well, and
was
I've
it
got
all the
both.
memory, or was it just one or the like, was it how
It's
did it
mostly long term, but I notice even today, and I'm 2.5 years out of my surgery,
Mhm.
that I still have short term memory gaps, and pieces of my long term memory are triggered by different things, but
Okay.
it's in chunks. It's not like a consecutive movie where, this happened and this happened and this happened. It's just spontaneous um, things that sort of come to memory.
Oh my God. So you had to piece all this together and figure out
Well,
where it all
I still
goes.
am.
Well, you still
Yeah, I
are. Yeah.
still am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
in fact,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
my husband and I are, we're still on the journey of
Sure.
rediscovering and recreating our marriage. And so what we did, because my memories are just not there, um, we've gone back to square one. We're dating again. We're married, but we're dating.
Wow.
And he's exploring the new me, and I'm exploring the old him. So, some people say that's a great advantage, but I would say to you, no, it's really not. It's
Ooh,
it's not a fun experience. It's very
no.
upsetting, and you feel very vulnerable. So,
Well, yeah. Well, so did any of the so I keep thinking of the movie 50 First Dates. Did you ever see 50 First Dates? That
I've
like
been
every
told
time she
about it.
woke up, it was brand new, right? Like she didn't know
Yeah,
anything
I can't
from
remember. I probably did watch it, but I've been reminded of that movie
like I
since
don't
since my
that one.
surgery.
You should watch it again. It'll probably blow your mind. You'll be like, I mean, it's a little different for the way that happened to her. You
Yeah,
know, she had a car wreck and it affected her memory. So she remembered everything up to a certain point, but then everything after that was gone, and she literally had to
yeah,
relearn everything every morning. Like she would wake up and everything was blank. You know.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it's yeah, man. Whew. Um, but then, but people that don't know you, well, no. There's this is where I was going with that. That's right. You have your husband has memories, right? But he also has like your wedding album with all the pictures and the and video maybe and like all this stuff from the past that he can show you and go, look, I'm not lying. I swear we got married. Like we met here and how is that?
yeah.
Is that weird? I mean, that's got to be part of the like you still have
Yeah,
to
well, I can
recall it
give you
though.
a perfect example. We just recently attended a family wedding, and it was lovely, and I was surrounded by people who knew me really well, and I kind of knew them, but not really well.
Yeah.
And so when the wedding was over, I kind of had a meltdown because I realized I couldn't remember my own wedding. So that night, my husband and I curled up in bed and we talked, and we'd actually traveled for this wedding, so we didn't have the wedding album with us, but he basically walked me through our wedding, what I was
Wow.
wearing, what he was wearing, who were the people at the wedding, what we ate, where it was.
Oh my
So
God.
it didn't bring back any memories for me until I saw pictures, and then it was like, oh yeah, and we think in pictures. So when I
Yeah.
started looking at pictures, it helped.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, because that's so many people. I think in that way. I mean, everybody thinks in pictures in one way or another, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a very artistic person, so I think of things in shapes, right? I don't think of it in handwriting. I think of it as in shapes. So it's easier for me to do
Okay.
it left hand or right handed, right? So it's because it's just
Ah,
shapes, you
cool.
know. I'm not
Okay. Yeah.
ambidextrous, but so thinking that way, I was thinking that would be very helpful, right? Thinking in visual, you know, terms. I always thought men were more visual but you're saying visual helped.
It helped me. And the
Okay.
other thing that helped me was writing. So
Oh.
that's where the writing came in, because when I was going through my speech therapy and trying to get my brain to rewire itself so that my thought could become a word, my speech therapist said to me, try writing the words down. And
Wow.
so while he was sitting beside me, I'd write down angry, frustrated, tired, hungry, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And the words were correct as to what I had planned to write. They were spelled correctly and I could actually write them. So as I was going through the speech therapy all the time, um, by by writing and then trying to say what I had written was a process. So it was
Wow.
again, I guess it was a visual cue, but it was also rewiring my brain that if I could write it, think it, say it. So it helped.
Okay. Write it and then
Yeah.
think it and then in that order? Or
Yes.
okay.
Well, think, write, say.
Think, write,
So I would
yeah,
think of the
think about
word,
it,
write it.
write it
Yeah.
down, and then read it, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
And that
but I
was
thought
kind of the
was
process of getting my speech back.
reading, but reading was something you had to read that you had to read, learn all over again too, right? Or
Well, I could
not so much?
read. Oddly, I could read, yes.
Okay, great.
And
That's good.
I could think, yeah.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would lie in bed and I would create like kids stories in my head because I couldn't
Ah,
remember my childhood.
mm,
So I thought to myself, okay, well, what would a kid be doing right now? And I thought, well, they'd be making imaginary friends. They'd be creating stories and adventures. And my dog was beside me on the bed. And I thought, well, if I was 5, the dog and I would go on adventures. And
yeah.
so I just created stories in my head, wrote them down, and created some books just to play. And that started the journey of my writing.
I love that. You know what? This is so cool because this is a lesson for all of us because I tell you what, attitude, like you only have control over one thing, 100% control over one thing in your life, and that's how you respond to things. What is your attitude towards things? You can control that. Everything else is happening to you. That you can control. And I love what you've done with that because so many people, maybe it was because you had to start from the beginning and you figured, well, what good is it going to do if I get mad about it or whatever? But like you approached it from such an amazing perspective and it doesn't, I'm sure there was frustrating days, right? Like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Some days I could only like write a sentence, and then
Yeah.
other days I could write a page. So it just,
Okay.
you're right about mindset and you're right
Yeah.
about hope. I mean, I kind of came out of this whole experience. Number one, I was so grateful I was alive because I
Mm,
actually truly expected to die on the operating table
yeah.
because I knew how bad it was and what they were going to have to do. So the
Yeah.
fact that I was alive was like huge. So because I had another day of life, okay, I refused to just whittle it away. And I just sort of thought to myself, okay, there's got to be more. I've got something I can do. I don't know what it is yet, but once the writing started, then it was like, aha. It gave me a sense of accomplishment and it empowered me to keep going. So even on the bad days, I knew they were just temporary,
Yeah.
and I knew that I could just keep pushing and learning and
Mm.
trying. And that's literally the baby steps I took to keep going.
Love that. That's so cool. I love that because I have a similar experience in my childhood. With the, I mean, by the time I was in fourth or fifth grade, I had already had 9 surgeries. Two of them were brain surgeries, couple eye surgeries, bunch of abdominal surgeries. I mean, I'd been under the knife more than any fourth grader would ever want to.
Should ever.
We
Yeah.
should ever have to be out. I mean, my first brain surgery was that my introduction to the world was 2 weeks old, having an emergency brain surgery.
Oh,
It's crazy.
yeah.
So the
Yeah.
thing is, my parents could have gone two very different directions with that, right? They could have treated me like a sick kid and said, "Oh, we got to shelter you and put a helmet on you, right? And you can't talk to people, you can't go outside. We got to be and scare the daylights out of me and help me live in fear." Or they could do what they did, which is, you know what? You're a strong kid. You're smart. You're capable. You've had a few surgeries. You might have to have a few more, but go play. Go get dirty.
Yeah.
Go, don't bang your head against stuff. Be smart. But,
Not
don't play
cleverly.
football, right? Or soccer or whatever that intentionally does that. But,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is though. It's that mindset. It's that attitude that you instill in there. And so I love that that was that. I mean, it could have been worse.
Well, and I think I was wired as a survivor.
Yeah.
I haven't shared this with anyone, but I'll share it with you, is I was actually abandoned at birth, and I
Oh
became a
no.
ward of the Children's Aid Society and had 7 foster mothers before I was adopted. And somehow
Whoa.
I managed to, keep it together and become a nurse.
Huh,
So I think I was partly wired
I
as
think
a
so.
survivor, and that someone who just chose to keep going regardless of the circumstances. And this
Oh
was
my
really a
God.
blip in the road in a way, created a whole new life for me. I have a like before before surgery and an after surgery life, and they're very different.
Yeah.
But hey, that's okay. I'm good with that.
That is incredible. That just like skyrocketed my respect for this whole story because that alone, that experience alone, being in foster care at all, much less that
Yeah.
many families, right? Now, I know there's people out there that have been in more. It's people that everybody's experience is different, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, that like that if you could have had any excuse that would have been justified for you, it would have been that one. Oh, you're a foster kid. Oh, no
Well,
wonder. Or whatever. Like there's
yeah.
always an excuse you could choose, right? Um,
And there was all those paradigms that you're taught. Like
yeah.
I have to say my adoptive family, my mother was not the nicest person.
Mm.
And, there were lots of paradigms she put on me, like, you're not smart enough, I
Oh,
saved you from the system,
oh
you're a
no.
bit of a disaster, if you're not good enough, we'll send you back,
Oh
that kind of stuff.
no.
So when you're programmed that way, you
Uh,
have to develop a mindset where, you just ignore it. You just
oh
say,
man.
that is not me. Look, I could have died. I could have died multiple times, but I'm here. I'm sharing my story to show hope, to
Yeah.
show that every situation really is temporary. It's not forever, and that you have the control to change your destiny. And I never really believed it until I had to reinvent myself. Once I realized, hey, I can do this. I want people to know that they can do it too. If I can
Yeah.
survive this, you can survive this.
I love that. Man. By the way, my youngest sister, I have two younger sisters. My youngest sister is adopted. So not so I
Ah,
that whole thing of adopting somebody into your family is very it hits home for
yeah,
me because yeah,
yeah,
she came into our she's from the Philippines. We adopted her from the Philippines. And she was 6 when she arrived when she came
right.
into our home,
Okay.
and it was crazy, man. It was
Yeah,
me and my sister that had been there for the first several years, and then all of a sudden, this new person is here, and we're like,
yeah,
whoa, what's
yeah,
going on? So yeah,
yeah,
that can be a turn the world upside down type of thing if you let it,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So that's one more thing.
So
Good Lord.
yeah, and so,
Whew.
as I was reinventing myself, I wanna tell you my story about my books in
Yeah.
that, um, you know, I didn't know how to write fiction. I mean, I wrote children's books to start because they were quick, they were simple,
Mhm.
there was something I could follow through on, and it gave me a great sense of encouragement.
Yeah.
So when I decided I wanted to try something more, like I was lying there in bed thinking, okay, what would I love? What would I really love? If I could have anything, what would it be? And I thought, I would love to be a best-selling medical thriller writer. And I thought, when I took some courses, I found some online courses that I took so that I could work around my rehab and my exhaustion. Because
Mhm.
as you can appreciate and have been there, you're really tired after brain surgery.
Yeah.
And this overwhelming fatigue kind of overcomes you at times,
Yeah.
and you just have to crash and let it happen.
Yep.
So I took these online writing courses, which helped me learn the craft of writing. And so one of the first things they say is write about something you know. Well, I knew two things for sure. One, I'd been a nurse for 33 years. And secondly, I was a brain tumor patient. So I combined the two and created the medical thriller using a character that I created who was a nurse, who had a brain injury, who had similar symptoms and challenges that I had.
Mhm.
I put her going back to work into an ICU,
Oh,
and the her experiences and the fact that she identified that her neurosurgeon who had botched her surgery was now
oh,
working beside her in her ICU created all the conflict I needed. And
yeah.
so I just took my story and I morphed it into something that it wasn't, and I created a medical thriller. So it's the first in a series, and I'm going to use the same characters in different medical settings that I worked in and create a mystery drama thriller based on those events.
Good Lord. That's amazing. I have never been a big reader. I'm an Audible guy. I like to
Okay.
listen to stuff, right? So make sure
Yeah,
that they land on Audible and Kindle and all those other places that you can, well, Kindle's
yeah,
not
they're
really,
getting
but
there.
Audible, if I can listen to it, I'm in. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm
Uh,
working on it.
oh, that'd be so cool because I love that kind of stuff. I love
Yeah,
there's a few authors out there that I love listening to, and that's right. That's
yeah,
my jam. I like that thriller stuff. It's fun. So
perfect,
it sounds
perfect.
great. It sounds amazing.
Yeah,
How long
so
ago did that
that's
one come
where I'm
out? How
going.
long? When did you publish that one again? Forgive me.
So the triggering scent has just come out at the end of March, so it's
Okay,
only been out, maybe two
a little bit.
months, and
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of promotions around it. So hopefully, people will hear about it and be interested in it.
Yeah.
And I'm getting good reviews on it, so I think it's good. And then the second one comes out probably at the end of the year or thereabouts.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what have you got behind you on behind your shoulder? That's
So behind me, so this is the triggering scent. So that's the debut one. And then Terror at the Manor. Get my finger going in the right direction here. That's number two. And that takes place in a long term care home or a nursing home. And I was a director of care in nursing homes. And so what I did was I took my experiences and I embellished some of them and I created a thriller in that environment. So,
wow.
yeah. Yeah. And
That
one of the
sounds
things that I've
fantastic.
tried to do is I've tried to incorporate actual healthcare challenges that are happening today, in an effort to kind of highlight them and to get
Mhm.
people talking about them. So, for example, we talk about short staffing, we talk about nurse burnout, we talk about the fact that there aren't enough staff, we talk about budgets that are just devastating. We talk
Mm.
about access to medications, and there's so many more things.
Oh man.
But
Yeah.
I weave them into the novel in an attempt to kind of get people thinking about it, raising concerns and doing something about it.
Have you? I love that because I have, as you can imagine, the last four brain surgeries have left me with some pretty wicked side effects over the years. And you go poke
Yeah,
around in the brain, you never know, right? And so I
yeah,
came out of there with some crazy stuff. And most of the doctors, well, all of the doctors, or I should say, none of the doctors knew what to do with me after I came out of surgery
yeah,
with these side effects, right? Like nonstop migraines for a solid year after a couple of the brain surgeries, large motor tics that I couldn't control on one side of my body. I mean, there's been some crazy stuff. None
yeah,
of the doctors knew what to do with that. And so they said, sorry, I guess you're just going to have to live with it. Where is that education? Like, I get it, a neurosurgeon,
yes,
I don't want a jack of all trades, right? I want somebody laser focused. That's
yes,
right. But
yes,
at the same time, shouldn't they have at least access to certain things to be able to say, migraines, you might try this, or
well, that's very true.
but they can't
That's very
because,
true.
you know,
Yeah.
so maybe that's, you know, just an idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and the other thing is, really, when you look at the big picture, like you said, you want your neurosurgeon to know what he's doing, and he's the one that's in there.
Yeah.
But doctors are kind of like the mechanics, for lack of a better analogy.
Yes.
So they identify the problem, they have the expertise to fix it, and they do fix it.
Mhm.
Nurses, on the other hand, they look at the person as a whole. So,
Mm,
when a medical thriller is written, most of them are written through a physician's eyes, right? Most of them are
mhm.
doctors.
Yeah,
There's only a couple of nurses writing books, and a nurse looks at things in a very different way. We don't know all the nuts and bolts of the surgery, but we
right.
have a really good sense of what's happened and what's been affected. And
Yeah.
we look at the whole person, we look at the family, we look at the social aspects, we look at the emotional aspects. And as you were saying, when you have side effects after a surgery, and I still have side effects, um, you need someone who's willing to look at the big picture versus the very small picture,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so, it's a very different lens to look through. So you're
Mhm.
right. It would be good if we had a better way of bringing a team together to work with you
Well,
afterwards. Yeah.
and I get that it's not always possible because of, HIPAA and whatever. There's so many
Yeah.
things. But
Lots
if
of
but
regulations.
exactly, but if there's a way, like I am a perfect example of having great success with the medical world and the alternative world after being through the medical world with the surgery side effect, and then the medical world couldn't help me, but the alternative world did, and that's what got rid of those side effects, right? So if they could just work
Yes.
together somehow, that would
Yeah,
be
they're very much in different silos, aren't they? They really
totally.
are.
They really
Yeah,
are. Yeah, and maybe
yeah,
they shouldn't be all the time. Sometimes I get it. Yes, keep them separate. That's
yeah,
fine. But there's so many places they could be working together, that they're
yeah.
just not. So,
Well,
um,
and that's
yeah,
the other thing about having brain surgery, right? Is you have to have an open mind, not literally, but just you have to
let's
look
say
at options. You have
yes.
to look at, okay, what could possibly help me? Or, how should I be approaching this challenge? And when you are open to different suggestions, treatments, options, specialties,
Right.
um, that's when you heal. And, one of the things that I want people to understand, and I'm sure through your work, you do this on a regular basis, is just that it's not just hope. It's the power that you have to basically run your own life, right?
Yeah.
You get to make the choices about you.
Yeah.
And if that means
Yeah.
going off script or going down a road maybe that everybody says, ooh, maybe not, it's okay if it works for you.
Yeah.
And I think, again, you have to be willing to try some things. You have to be cautious, but try. Um,
Yeah. Well,
it
and
helps a lot.
sometimes when you're in that medical world, like when we went to after the two brain surgeries back to back in 2014 that I had, 3 weeks in a hospital, all that kind of stuff. Came out of there nonstop migraines for a year. Nobody knew what
Mm,
to do with it. The neurosurgeon literally looked at me and said, "Sorry, guess you're going to have to live with headaches." We found
yeah,
something that worked, but we didn't start looking for that until we had exhausted every medical option and said, "Okay, well, they can't help me in the way that I need help, so we're going to keep looking." And so that's where the real advocacy starts, is when I feel
yeah,
like that people have to come to the end of what they know that they can do, and then they start looking elsewhere. It doesn't have to be that way though.
yeah,
You could open your mind sooner than that. But it's hard though, it's tough to
yeah.
do that. So,
It is,
it's
and that's another paradigm or beliefs that society has kind of put on us, right? You go with traditional medicine first,
right. Start
and
here. Yeah.
then start here, and if that doesn't work, then, you're out of luck. Well, actually, no, you're not necessarily out of luck. There might be something else. Go look. So,
Yeah, well, and over the years, over the last 12 years, 12, 13 years now, with those first four brain surgeries, the first two that I had back to back in 2014, I did go the medical route first and try that first. Now, since then, I've learned enough that I actually went alternative first with the after effects of the one that I had in 2021, and it turned out to work. So I didn't really have to go the traditional, the conventional, I shouldn't say traditional, conventional medical route, because I found something in the
right.
alternative world right away that worked really good. So
Right.
you progress. You don't know what you don't know until you do, right? And so you
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
learn,
Now, I can tell you as a nurse, and when we were talking about mindset, as a
Yeah.
nurse, I saw a lot of people have a very positive mindset, and that helped them get good outcomes. I
Yes.
also saw the reverse. I saw people who gave up, who kind of wallowed in self-pity, who kind of said, I can't, I'm overwhelmed, I'm done. And they were done.
Yeah.
So I think there is a power in the universe. And if you have the right mindset and you ask for help, I think you will find you will get it. That's been my experience.
Oh, you are so right. You're so right. I just looked at the time and we have like 3 minutes left. I can't believe how fast this has
Okay.
gone. It's like
Yeah.
we blinked and here we are. My favorite way of saying what you just said is life doesn't have to be perfect to be amazing. Don't wait for it to be. It's okay. So your memory
Absolutely.
is suffering. Okay, fine. You can still be awesome. You know, okay, that's wrong. It's okay. You can still do awesome stuff,
Yeah.
So,
And the other thing is, Jeff, you and I have had, massive changes to our lives because of our brain
mhm,
trauma. For the average person who feels stuck in their circumstances, I want them to know that they have the power to make change. All you have to do is kind of dream about what you want. You don't have to tell anybody about the dream. Just internalize it. Yes,
yeah,
I'd like to do this, and find a path, find baby steps that you can take a little every day just to get you towards that dream.
yeah,
And, that could be a quiet thing between you and your spirit or whatever, but it's something that you can work on individually for your own good to
yeah.
get what you want out of life.
Amazing. It's true. It's so, and I hear that what you're saying too is maybe without saying it out loud is it's still on you. Like you have to want to do it. So
Yeah.
not every
Yeah,
when
it's
it,
it's
yeah,
it's not easy, it's
no,
focus, right?
right,
And there will
right.
be bad days,
Yeah.
but
Well, it's
no, it's
not
just
easy, but it's
temporary.
simple. Just because it's simple
Yes,
doesn't mean it's
yes,
easy, right? Yeah. So,
exactly, well
yeah,
said, yes.
yeah. So there's a lot of stuff out there like that. Brain surgery can be simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. So, you
Yeah.
know, so it's for sure. Well, we got about, I don't know, we got about a minute, maybe a minute and a half left. Is there any last parting thoughts that you'd like to leave with our audience as we close up today?
Well, I think I've pretty much said everything, but I would love you guys to check out my books because I think you'll find they're really good entertainment. I think
Yeah.
you'll find some truths in them. I think you'll be able to connect with the characters in them, and it raises some pretty interesting situations in the medical world that maybe we should all be looking at.
I like it. I like it. In fact, I think when we get done here, remind me about that because there's a community that I need to introduce you to that you might get
Oh,
a lot
perfect.
out of for that kind of thing. So,
Perfect.
yeah, no, man, the wheels are turning now. Well, man, thank you so much, Jenny. I appreciate it. This has been a blast, and I'm so glad we got
Thank
this
you.
worked out. And just thank you so much for everything you're doing and being so open and honest on here and everything for what you're doing. Thank you.
You're very
Appreciate
welcome, and I always love meeting a fellow warrior.
That's right. Bring it on, right? Awesome.
Bring it
Keep
on.
up the good work.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. Oh boy, everybody, I'll tell you what. Ah, man, that's got to be one of my favorites that we've recorded recently, man. She's awesome. Holy crap. I got to bring her back sometime. That'd be fun. Next time she releases a book, man, we'll bring her back. It'll be fun. I love it when I get to talk to people that we can relate to so well, That's why the hour just went gone. So yeah, by the way, thank you for being here. And it's so great to see you all and have you here. You are the reason that this show works. You are the reason that this show has grown in size of audience every single month. You have helped us grow, and we love you for it. We're so thankful. So no matter where you're watching, if wherever you're watching, please throw a comment in there. I hope you made good use of that QR code. Get in touch with Jenny, talk to her, learn about what she's doing. Maybe you can help her in some way with what she's doing. If you have a connection for her, and then join us for our next episode, which will be, my gosh, June's almost over. Join us for our next episode, which will be Friday, June 26th. And so that's going to be our next show with our next amazing guest. So make sure you mark your calendar for that. Set those YouTube subscription reminders and all the things. Thank you for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.